10 years ago, a film came out about a man with a pussy, about a trailblazer, not only in the world of adult films, but in my career as a nurse, and then the type of nurse practitioner that I aspire to be. The film, Mr. Angel, is a documentary about Buck Angel. Buck Angel is my guest for this week's podcast. Welcome back to Age Lust. Aging doesn't mean a collapse. It can be lustful, full of desire, wanting, and adventure. Age Lust is a podcast about lustful aging, where we spark conversations, ignite passion, and expand your thinking about the wise years. My name is Jessica. I'm a family nurse practitioner with close to 20 years working in wellness. I'm also a certified menopause provider through the North American Menopause Society. And I coach people on stuff like sex, hormones, and mind expansion as medicine. And I'm so happy you're stepping into this adventure with me. So let me just first start by telling you, this is the most exciting thing. 10 years.
10 years. Hilarious.
Let me just tell you what I'd love to talk about.
Yeah, sure.
I want to talk about aging.
Okay, great. Excellent.
And I want to talk about your transition, how you felt about your body then when you were 30 years old, when you were first transitioning, how you feel about your body now as a 60-year-old.
Right.
I also want to introduce you to people.
What is your circle? Your circle is
I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm biracial. I'm from Chicago originally. We do a little bit of trans medicine at my paycheck job.
Okay.
I actually have a couple questions from one of the providers there, but Callan Lord came in to help us flesh out a program and see. And I learned about the term called queer spawn. Have you ever heard that? Queer spawn? I know there's always, I grew up in Chicago. I'm originally from Chicago. When I was growing up, I was surrounded by gay men. That's like the first romantic kiss I ever saw was between two men. I went to the Pride Parade when I was like 11 years old. I saw men in chaps. It was, that's
Excellent.
just how I grew up.
Excellent.
My father, who was a big slut my whole life, ended up having a deep relationship with a man for 10 years, the last 10 years of his life. Now, I don't know if they were having sex, but all I know is that they spent every night. He is gay, not my dad, as far as I know, but this became his life partner. They had dinner every night. Anyway, so when I heard this term, I was like, okay. Growing up in theater, growing up with the environment, and HIV and AIDS wiped my family out, just wiped us out incredibly. My dad at that time was paying for health insurance for all of his employees.
Wow.
And that was unheard of.
Amazing. Wow.
So he was paying like $10,000 to $13,000 a month for people.
Wow.
To make sure that his employees were taken care of. Anyway, so that's a little bit, so I was first introduced to you I think when Mr. Angel came out. I saw you and you had a scene where you went to the gynecologist and you were, and that was so impactful to me.
Thank you.
I want to be able to care for everybody. And from that moment on, I just fell in love with you.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you.
You are just,
I appreciate that.
Points in my professional and personal life on how to care for people.
That's right.
Now, I've never seen any of your films, though.
You don't need to. The porn isn't for everybody. I created the first sort of docu-series around trans men.
Yes.
And that was, I think, my first film, but that was like 2010. And that series did really well. I think I went up to 4 or 5 in that particular series. And then I put it on, it's on Amazon, but I took the sex out. So they let me put, and I recalled it Conversations with Trans Men. So you get to see men talking about themselves, trans men talking about their bodies and themselves and connecting to it, which I think is really important on so many levels.
Important that people see bodies and that there's
Yeah.
such a variety of bodies out there.
Today, because I am an elder in the community, I did things way before the trans community became what it is today. You know, I was forward thinking. I knew there were going to be other guys like me eventually coming out and feeling comfortable, but not understanding on some level the health aspect of transition, because we still don't talk about it, which is
Yeah.
shocking to me. It's just shocking. As you, as a nurse, even you don't get you don't have definitely the tools. Still, I don't think you have the tools to sort of understand what transitioning, you know, and that's why I fight with a particular part of this community around biology. Biology matters to us so I don't care if you want to acknowledge it publicly or whatever, that's fine, but you need to acknowledge it on your own reality space. If you don't acknowledge your biology, you will not survive this trip in a healthy way. You will get so sick and you will, I almost died from atrophy. And it's like such a profound thing that happened to me. And I'm like, because of my biology, not because of anything else. And this desire to remove biology, or that it's a social construct, or that trans people are not, it's so detrimental to the future of our health. And it's shocking to me how I feel like we've gone backwards on some level in our healthcare system with around trans space.
I
It's
get
difficult.
really confused because I like to listen to what the science says, and I do get confused because there are some providers out there and some physicians who are saying, oh, no, biology is not a binary. And you know, there are intersex folks, right?
And also, let's just be real here. Of course there are, they've always been there, but is a very small percentage. And those are not trans people. Those are intersex people.
Exactly.
So we cannot put those under the umbrella. And my intersex friends don't like that. They are completely separate than what I'm a biological female. Done. I'm not intersex. I'm not nothing. This is all by injecting testosterone into my body. And it didn't change my biology. It changed my gender physically, but it did not change my chromosomes or my DNA. None of that gets changed. So that's sloppy medicine. And I'll be honest with you, I don't like physicians who say stuff like that, because that's sloppy. That also doesn't live in reality. How do you get atrophy if you're not a biological female? How do you get atrophy then? I mean, let's just be real. Why is that so hurtful, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. I don't understand.
Okay, so let me start with this question then. So this is a man, biological man, and he wrote and he said, honestly, because I said, can I use your name? And he said, honestly, my moderate position has earned me a lot of headaches in my life. I try and keep my public views pretty neutral.
Unbelievable.
But he said, I'd be interested in knowing how his own thoughts, meaning you, Buck, have evolved around challenges facing the trans community / communities.
Well, that's a great question. And I think he knows what I'm going to say here. There has been such a divide in my community because some people believe that I am not a biological female, and I push back on that. Some people believe biology is a social construct, which is completely insane. And some people believe that you don't need to have a diagnosis of gender dysphoria to be transsexual. And I disagree with all the above. You need to know all of those. It's the only reason I'm a transsexual is my biology. Because if that was the case, I wouldn't be transitioning. It's real. I feel like there's a lot of gaslighting going on here in our community. And there's one side on one side. And so I'm actually really disturbed by it, to be honest with you, because there's no need for it. Number one. Number two, I believe that people are being pushed into a space that's not for them, because now we have something called detransitioners. And these and whatever anybody tells you out there, again, I'm going to tell you factually what I know, and I'm connected to many detransition. These are mostly young girls, okay, who transitioned at 15, 16, then by 18, 19, realizing they made a mistake when they already did top surgery, which is removing your breasts and injecting testosterone. And contrary to what many people will say out there to you in the transgender community, all of that is irreversible. I wish they would stop saying that. It's a lie. Why they're lying about, look at me.
Yeah.
Look
Yeah.
at me. I used to
Yeah.
look like you. And this is not reversible. You know, I might be able to shave my beard, but all the male characteristics that came are never going away. I'm 30 plus years on testosterone. So to the doctor who asked you that question, I believe there's a lot of deceitfulness, lying, and this desire to sort of manipulate and gaslight other people into accepting just anyone can be trans. That's not true. Not anyone can be trans. This is not an identity choice. This is an actual medical condition. I didn't self-diagnose myself. I got diagnosed by an actual doctor with gender dysphoria. That's why I separate transgender from transsexual, because I believe transgender is now an identity choice, where transsexual is a medical condition called gender dysphoria.
Yeah.
And that could mean many things. And so it's really, if those people want to play that game over there, that's fine. This is not a game. This is an actual condition. I have been diagnosed. Thank the goddess that I was diagnosed. The diagnosis helped me. It's like with anything, you get diagnosed, you kind of understand what's going on with you. Without my diagnosis, I wouldn't understand why I feel this way. And it's really helped me become this person, and very grounded and very open to who I am, and all the ways of being I am, because I'm very honest in why I transitioned and why it makes me feel better to walk the world. I'm not a biological male. I'm a transsexual male, which is, and this whole fight around women and what is a woman and why do we need to even do that? Because women and trans women are two different spaces. They're
Mm.
not the same. But you see, they want to take biology off so that now you can make woman anything. And woman is not anything. Woman isn't a feeling. I as a biological female also find that to be destructive to not only female space, but also to trans space, when we don't acknowledge our actual real space.
Sense then there's that a third space that is, I don't
Well,
know how
that
to.
deals with gender. So
Yeah.
here now you're dealing
Yeah.
with someone's choice of gender, which
Yeah.
you can't have a choice of your sex. You can't. That's not. There's male
Yeah.
and female. And then you're going to say intersex, but that's, let's just talk majority. Male, female. Biology does matter. Then you can go and these people can choose. I've chosen to live as male, whatever that means, right? I don't know what it means to be a man. I just know that this presentation that I'm presenting to the world enables people to see me male. I never get asked my pronouns. I never get any of that. That's a transsexual person. I want to sort of emulate you. And that's why I tell people, like, I coexist. I emulate a man. I am not a man. I emulate a man. And I'm a different type of male. And I think that's why, the majority of the world kind of connects with me and they have no issues with me, because I'm just saying, hey, I know my biology and I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
And, let's move forward here. How can me and you walk the world together without feeling, but the new trans activism isn't wanting to walk the world hand in hand. They're wanting to dominate and tell people how to be and what to think. And that's not trans. That's some other, it's like an ideology or something.
I absolutely see your point. And I think that there's something really important about diagnosis, because you hit the nail on the head, right? When we have a diagnosis like strep throat, right?
That's right.
You've got like this gunk in your throat, and I say, I'm going to swab you for strep, and I'm hoping it comes out positive.
That's
because
right.
if it's positive, I know how to address it.
That's
I
right.
know how to make you feel better. You feel better.
And it makes you feel better, because now I know all I need is the testosterone. That's my medicine. I got some surgery and I emulate walking the world as male. No one ever questions. I got my identifications changed. My life has been amazing up until the last 5 or so years, when this whole trans activism came in, and non-binary people. Now, non-binary is a choice. I didn't choose this. This is an actual diagnosis. And that's why people need to see, yeah, go ahead, choose being I don't care what you want to be, a pink dinosaur. You go right ahead, friend. But how is that in any way connected to me? You see, people like me are starting to starting to speak up. Transsexual people are not feeling comfortable being put in the space with, young people running around saying they're trans dinosaurs or trans dogs or trans. That's some stuff going on over there. And I do think the mental space is being a mental, is it mental illness, or is it, mental stuff we're not dealing with? We're not getting mental health care. We're just saying, oh, anyone can transition. Anyone can say they're trans. And tell me this as a nurse, what other disorder or space can you actually self-identify it and get medication for? Is there any other besides
Well,
trans?
well, alcoholism, you
Well, there you go.
diagnosed for
There you
alcoholism,
go.
right?
There
Like
you go.
you say
But are
I'm
you
an
taking
alcoholic.
medication and are you
Yeah,
moving forward in surgery or you know what I mean? But that's a good
yeah,
point. Alcoholism, sure,
yeah.
sure.
Is so
So is it a
interesting.
disease? Is it? I mean, I might push back on you with that because, or is it a disorder? Because I 30 years of sobriety. Right on. But
25.
I'm going to tell you, I use cannabis and I've been
Yeah,
5 years using
yeah,
cannabis as
yeah,
my medication.
yeah,
And some people will push back and say, well, you're not sober. That's fine. You know, I'm so long of my sobriety that it doesn't really
yeah,
bother me.
yeah.
I'm very content where I'm at.
You talked about going through puberty at 16.
That's right. Yep.
And
I did.
before that, even your parents would talk about what we would call like a tomboy
Yep.
when you were a kid.
Yep.
You didn't transition for another 14 years.
Yep.
When we think about now, the ability to transition is so much more accessible. And I'm talking about
That's right.
medication, top
That's right.
surgery, bottom surgery, whatever. Well, not I don't know so much bottom surgery
It
for
is.
kids, but is it?
Well, yeah. Supposedly it's not, but Jennings got her bottom surgery at 16, I think it was.
Yeah.
That's
So
still a child.
yeah, yeah. So we know that the brain doesn't stop growing till 25, and the bones
That's right.
don't stop growing as far as width until
That's right.
24.
Mhm.
So, but at the same time, when you were 16 and you talk about not even knowing what a period was, right? That just
Yep.
wasn't a conversation in your family, in your home. Reflecting back, do you wish or that you had had the opportunity to transition earlier or?
Hmm. Well, you know, it's a question that I get asked a lot because I'm not supporting medical transition of children. So I do get asked this question a lot because people are like, well, Buck, what if you would have had, you know, I always say in my story, and remember, this is completely now, I always consider things that far back a story. You can't change it. Of course, everyone could want to look and change certain things of their life. But today, living as this person, and I would say that all of that turmoil made me the man I am today and gave me, I have thick skin and I'm willing to take things on that not a lot of other people are willing to do. And I do think it's because I had, you know, what we like to call suffering, or, you know, I had turmoil or I had trauma, whatever those things are. Now that being said, I didn't have a bad childhood. I
Yeah.
didn't suffer. My parents treated me like Buck. They let me be that tomboy. They let me, you know, it was a certain times, of course, when we had to go to family functions or church, or I had to wear the dress, one dress I had, right? Because
Yeah,
everything else
yeah.
was boy shit. But my parents would do that because I think that they felt embarrassed about them raising me as a boy because they didn't get a lot of support from the people around. They were like, that's your daughter, not your son, shit like that, right? But that being said, I don't think I would have. I don't think I would have benefited from it on some level. I think I benefited from not doing it in a sense that I got to have all these experiences in my life. And, you know, when you're 16, you don't care about getting pregnant. You don't care about having sex on some level, especially a girl. So you're willing to give all of that. That's why I don't believe a child can't consent to transitioning medically, because they don't have any clue what that means to take your breasts off. They don't have any clue what that means to sterilize themselves with testosterone, which is what's happening. So of course, right? Let's just be honest here. Every 16-year-old girl hates having puberty, their period, their boobs. I don't know any girl that's like, yay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's on some level, is it actually giving somebody at 16 or 15 or 14, are they really having informed consent? Are they? Because I don't know if I would have made the right choice at 16, right? I don't know. I can't say so, but I can tell you that I had a lot of turmoil, but I like that I had it now. Looking back on all my life experiences, they have given me such a way of being that I don't think I would have if I didn't live as a gay woman for many years, if I didn't go through the AIDS crisis as a gay woman, if I didn't live butch and do the bad things I did, or, you know, the suffering on some level that I had, because I did, you know, I was a cutter, I was a drinker, I was tried to commit suicide a couple of times, but they weren't all related to my gender. They were related to me not feeling like I fit in, and they were related, and I don't know if that's my gender, right? Because back then they didn't have all of what they have today. And but here I am.
Yeah.
Right. So that's, I think, most important people to see, here I am.
Yeah. And I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you.
What I hear you saying is that all this controversy is around taking hormones. It's around taking medication.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
about manipulating the body
Yep.
in this permanent way.
That's right.
And you're not saying if your kid is trans, you should suppress it, try and change it,
Not saying that at all.
affirm it. You're
Nope.
saying absolutely go and do it. And that's not changing. Let's just say it's not changing. So when they can have the means and the sobriety,
that's right,
to make that decision,
that's right,
then
why are we making the parents make such a drastic choice for a child? Now, if I didn't see one single detransitioned young person, I would not have this conversation. I'd be like, right on, this is working amazing, let's keep going. But that's not the truth. The truth is we're seeing a tenfold amount of young people, 16, 17, 18, 20, detransitioning and telling me that they made the wrong choice because of X, Y, and Z, which is that they didn't have mental health care. They were affirmed the minute they said that they were trans, which is self-IDing. And that's the danger. I was never affirmed. I had to go through a major amount of mental health care, which people like to call gatekeeping. How is that gatekeeping? That is called safekeeping. There is a child can deal with it for a couple of years. Sorry, people, but they could deal with having their boobs or having their, and now we have what's called TikTok and all this other stuff. You don't think that's on some level, giving kids sort of this space to sort of indoctrinate other people? Because I do. I mean, they want to be part of the club.
Yeah, I think so I'm 51. I'm 51
I'm
year
60.
old.
Yeah.
I know. But I look at Instagram and I can feel like absolute fucking dog shit at the end of, right? Like here I am, I'm supposed to be a grown ass woman, right? And I can feel like shit on a fucking stick at the end of looking at this thing for hours. I'm not doing enough. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough. I'm not, all of the things. So I look at, and I have teenagers. I have three kids. I look at them and you're a parent too, which I actually want to ask you about as well. But I look at their own struggles and just even what they went through with this pandemic and like literally going to the school of stupid, which means upstairs at my dining room table, right? For a year. And who the fuck wants to be 16 and looking at your mother for your summer? Like there was no hot girl summer. There was nothing, right? Like that just was not happening. And so now it's like, let's in a way settle. When it comes to taking that time and that space, we've created our kind of, and I don't want to talk too much about my paycheck job, but we try and spread it out because it's so accessible now to get hormones.
That's right.
And I think there's just something I use hormones myself and I have a reverence for hormones, right? It can mess you up in either way. It can, if I take too much progesterone, I can't function. I am just exhausted. I can't function. These are medications.
That's right.
And I don't even want to hardly give my kid a Tylenol if I don't have to.
That's right.
But at the same time, I have deep compassion because I have friends who have kids who have transitioned. And I've watched them. I've watched their struggle and the long process. And they went through a very long process to get to where they were. Okay. And they also have known some of these children from their infancy. Because I'm seeing them, I don't know if I would have made the same choice, but I also know that for them and that family, it makes sense. For them and that family, it makes sense.
That's the thing. That's what I keep saying. This is an individual space. Number one. Number two, why is this even a conversation with the world? If they would have kept the child stuff sort of more in a medical space and more, in our trans space, instead of putting it into the world and trans kids are kids and that's what ruined everything. Now Trump got a hold of it. Everyone got a hold of it. And now all of these things are going to, the minute you put kids in any type of situation like this, people are going to think you're crazy. I know 2 kids that totally transitioned as young people, and they look like they're perfectly fine now, 17 and 18, right? But there's always that but. How do we know what's going to happen in another couple of years when they start really growing up and they miss that part of puberty? Because the 2 kids I know were literally given puberty blockers.
Yeah.
And so, we don't have enough research. And every time someone tells me, oh, Buck, it's only a pause, I'm like, I'm not even a doctor. And I can tell you right now, you cannot pause puberty. There's no way. I don't care. That particular part you're taking out is gone forever. Yeah, you're picking up, but you're picking up after you took out a chunk of something that is very detrimental. The sterilization happens. And how do we make a choice of that? I'm very pro-sex. And so on some level, a lot of these young people are going to be sterilized. They're going to not have sexual function. These are important parts of being a human being. And who is it? Us. When you go ahead, ask a 10-year-old, well, you might not ever have a baby. Or they're going to be like, so what? Right? They're going to be like, so what? But they can't make that life-changing choice. And of course, I see lots of people thinking that they're doing the right thing for their kid. And I empathize with them a lot. And, it's not that I don't want somebody to transition who needs to, but I'm going to say it again. I really believe transition is an adult space. I do not believe children can make such a drastic. And, I don't know why people get so mad at me for it. I'm just wanting to have the conversation. I'm not the end all be all. And I can tell you that many countries, Norway, Sweden, Finland, all of the ones who were doing it before us stopped. Tavistock went down in the UK. They're literally, every place in the world is stopping what we are actually ramping up.
Yeah.
I mean, that concerns me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking about talking to people, I actually saw the Prager, am I saying it right?
PragerU. Yep.
Yeah, with Blossom Brown and
Amala.
Yep. Ekpunobi.
I can never say her name.
Ekpunobi, right?
She's great. She's really
and
sweet.
I was really impressed. So you know what came up for me when I was listening? The ageism.
Constantly. I get it constantly, friend. Constantly. You're old. You're an old porn star. You don't know anything. You're losing your mental capacity. I'm like, what? I'm more sharp and more aware than I've ever been in my whole life. But I get the ageist card thrown at me constantly.
She started out, and I'm talking about Blossom, started out immediately with talking about your generation.
Yep. And she sure did.
It was.
She also called me racist.
Well, I caught that. I caught that too. I caught that.
That is a horrible space to be in. Let me tell you, you as a white person, you can't fight that. You can't, because what am I going to say? I'm not racist. Then I look like I'm racist.
Well,
it was horrible.
She had 0 receipts and she needed to not even bring that up. And that was a reach for me.
It was stupid and it was very embarrassing. And but she pretty much took up the whole space. If you can't even watch it, it's 2 hours of her spinning out and saying the same thing over and over.
I think that you came across really very clear. And if people listen to you,
Blossom, no. Those are the trans activists that dislike me for many reasons, being that I'm outspoken about children transitioning, I'm outspoken about biology, I'm outspoken that trans women are not women, they're trans women, I'm outspoken about women's rights, I'm outspoken about sports and trans people, I'm outspoken about all the things I believe in as a transsexual person, and I'm entitled to have these opinions as someone who's lived in this space 30 plus years. But to them, I'm not entitled to it because I'm old, I have a different way of being, and I'm thinking to myself, well, really, that's very interesting. In other cultures, they look at people like me who have experience and actually are very respectful of me. They might disagree, but there's respect. In this new trans space with the younger generation like that, there's no respect for the elders.
But I feel like that's just America in general, that there's very little respect for older folks. And
that's right.
If we think about your generation, my generation, which I guess there's a difference because there's a 9-year change, but I was old enough to live through ACT UP and the
too.
AIDS crisis. I
That's
know.
right.
Yeah, you were
That's
older
right.
than me, right? You were
Yep.
actually, I wasn't having sex with people yet.
Yep. Yep.
You were, right?
I was. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
lost all my friends to AIDS. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's very important part of the LGBT, history.
So there's that, and there's also the fact that here's this man who is a pioneer in the sex industry, in porn,
Thank
and
you.
the idea of your generation, as if you're from 1952 and you're some kind of Republican conservative
I know.
who
I'm like,
is like you are in Leave It to Beaver. I was like,
I make
about, right?
sex toys. I make porn.
Yeah,
I'm far from
yeah,
the right. I'm far from a
yeah,
right conservative. Yet I get called it all the time. They
yeah,
like they hurl
yeah,
it at me like an insult. I'm like, first off, like stop doing that, because that's what's making the divide. Secondly, I'm a liberal, and these are my liberal thoughts. I don't
yeah,
believe children can consent to a transition medically. I think a child could consent to living like a boy or a girl 100%. I was doing that, right? And I
yeah,
don't see any issues with that. I
yeah,
see issues with teaching 10-year-olds about pronouns. I see issues with people teaching 10-year-olds that men and women don't exist and not everything is non-binary. I do have issues with that because it's
yeah,
lying to
yeah,
kids. And
yeah.
as a dad who listens to everything that goes on at his school, and I'm very in attendance there, and I make complaints all the time. Don't you dare teach my child about transgender stuff. And I'm transgender. That's my job, not your
Yeah.
job. I
Yeah.
don't like that. I don't like that they're teaching, if you're going to put an LGBT flag in there, you got to put other organizational flags in there. You can't just have the LGBT flag in the classroom and no other flag. That seems
Mm.
very indoctrinating on some level.
Huh. I
You
don't
can't
know.
have one flag. You can't.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not, if anything, it should be the American flag, but they're not even having that anymore. So then no flags are allowed. Why are we insistent on teaching young people about LGBT? Now it's important, but I think it's important in high school and maybe even junior high, maybe 14, 13, when they're starting to understand sex a little more. And I do believe in sex ed for
Yeah.
my kid is getting, that now, because we have to talk about those things. Kids do get pregnant at 12 and even maybe 10. I don't know. It's kind of scary.
Oh, yeah, they can. It's
They can.
really, yeah. If
Yeah.
you get your period at 9 and somebody harms
Oh,
you,
that's why they
then
got to talk about that and consent, and that you can say
yeah,
no to people. And,
yeah.
it's
And
sad.
basically a 10, like it is just a no.
Just a
It's just
no.
a no.
Leave
It's
me
just
alone.
like
Yep.
no need to say it. No need to say it, really.
That's
It's
right.
just
No.
it's
That's right.
just like look, if you don't know now, no, it's
Yep.
always a no. There's a certain
That's
age,
right.
there's a
There's no
certain age
consent.
cutoff, and it's always a no.
That's right. Kids
No,
don't consent.
right. Yeah, it's always a no. But I want to talk to you about your body and aging.
Great.
Are you still making films?
No. I stopped
No.
doing films. I think the last film I did was maybe in 2000, gosh, maybe like 16 or something, just to make, a cameo. And then they made like some movies about me. And I was like, I don't really want to shoot porn anymore. It's a lot of work and it's not really my direction anymore. And so I create sex toys
Yeah.
for many different types of people, which I love. I love creating. So the sex product I call sexual wellness products. I create lubes and all kinds of things like that. And I'm really more of a public speaker at this point, and
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about my transition and trans and sex and things like that, and my age. As a 60-year-old transsexual man, been on testosterone for 30 years. I know a lot about vaginal health that many like women don't even know.
Yeah.
So, I get to talk about these things as a man, and I think women really are so attentive to me. It's crazy. My fan base has become like 70% female. It's crazy.
And I want to talk about vaginal health because I want to get
Yeah.
into what providers need to know. But I want to go back, if you're comfortable talking about it, because
Sure.
we go through these major changes with our bodies, right? So you were 16, you went through puberty. All of a sudden your body changes. Then you go through a second puberty when you're transitioning, right? Just really quickly, when you met that therapist who said to you that they believed you, that you were a transsexual man, how soon after that, how old were you then, and how soon till you started the medication?
I think I was about 28 when I found the therapist, because I had tried going through so many therapists. Nobody had the skill. It's a skill, and no one talked about trans, especially trans men back then. And so it was very rare. So through her, I finally opened up. She made me feel comfortable enough. I stopped saying I feel like a man, because they would always push back on me. You're just a very masculine woman, blah, blah, blah. And now looking back, I get why they would say that. But, I was like, no, I actually feel like a man. And this one therapist, so by the time I told her, I think I was like 28 or so, it wasn't until 30 that I actually started to take the testosterone. So it took about a couple of years for us to figure out, because there wasn't the internet.
Yeah.
And people need to really know the gift they have of the internet. I didn't have any of that. And I used a bookstore, and then I found doctors here in Los Angeles who never worked on a man like me. And one of them called me a guinea pig, and I was willing to take it on because I was suicidal on some level at this time. I was just not comfortable living as a woman anymore, and being called a woman and being seen as a woman. And so again, that's the whole point of what I try to tell you about being a transsexual.
Yeah.
I want to look and be a man. I don't want to be a trans person.
You live in the binary.
That I live full on which is what transsexuals do.
Yeah.
We transition to live in the binary, and we transition to look and act and feel, whatever that means, like male and female, and not trans. The new trans is about identity, about non-binary, about not living in that sort of gender stereotype, right? So yeah, so that's just kind of like where that happened for me. And my therapist was really, really, without any skill level, she walked me through that, and she stood by me, which I think is really profound. And now she's a big gender therapist.
So you were 30, 28, about 2 years till you transitioned. You went through this second puberty. Now, and then we don't have to get into dosages, but I'm going to guess that the dosages that you take of testosterone, now that if they're kind of standard, that's going to be the same thing that a cisgendered man takes when he calls up at like one of those companies to get his testosterone, right? Same thing.
No, not necessarily, because you have to remember that I don't have testicles, so I'm not producing any testosterone.
They're not either anymore.
Well, that's true, but I think that they treat. Yeah, I think that they treat them a little bit differently. I'm not 100% sure. You can't mark.
So it works out to like 100 milligrams or more.
A shot, or the Korean.
By the time you've done that week.
Oh, right. Well, that is a lot, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's a lot, right? Depending on what they're and what'll happen. Because I used to do that medication as well. Right. So what'll happen is that the testicles will just stop working. It's a wrap. Right there, they shrink. It's just not happening anymore. But the point is that as we get to a certain, and I bring up the testosterone and I bring up the medicine because we start to notice that our muscles are not as strong as they used to be. We get softer in places, even though you're taking the testosterone. Like, how do you experience your body now that it's an older body? It's
a great question. I'm pretty fit for a 60-year-old guy. I work out every day.
That's an understatement.
Well, I really do, but it's very important to me. My fitness has always been important to me, because I really have tried to achieve the most masculine space I could. That's the part that's very important to me. So as I get older, I want to be one of those fit older men. And I do think I have this new relationship with my body as an older man that is really awesome. I don't in any way, shape, or form miss that younger, youthful space, because I already did it. And so for me, it's like I'm the guy who always is challenged. I like challenging myself, and I also like growing. And I also really believe it's important. I have a huge responsibility right now to stop ageism and to show the world that, when I tell people I'm 60, they lose their shit. They're like, what? No way. I'm like, yeah, I'm actually 60. And they're like, how? And I'm like, well, I think it really is about here and about here. And, I'm kind of immature, for lack of a better word, for a 60-year-old, but I don't think that I need to act a certain way to be 60. And I think, I believe that you can bring youthfulness, if that makes sense, to aging. And you don't have to be sort of on the couch, oh, my back hurts, or this, you can actually figure out how to continue to grow into your age and to make, I want to be that Jack LaLanne dude.
For the young
That's my
people.
goal. Yeah. That's my goal.
He was even older before our time.
Totally.
He was on his way out when you were like, he was way before us, right?
That dude did it though, didn't he?
Yeah.
He did it.
He really did. I mean, there's some, I have to say I'm very lucky because I'm surrounded by really strong, youthful 80-year-olds, you know,
Excellent.
and so
Excellent.
so how do you feel your sexual self has changed as you've gotten older?
Yeah, it's calmed down a little. I would say that early on in my transition, I was like a pig. That's why I did porno. But
Yeah.
that being said, you know, and also I have a partner, a life partner, and we're pretty much monogamous, but we have amazing sexual space. And I feel content with my sex. I feel happy. I feel like I don't feel so much like I have to have sex every day like I did years ago. And I feel very okay with that. And I'm 20 years older than my partner, which is actually equals us out because her sex drive is pretty good. And
Yeah.
so mine is, so I think on some level where I'm not that crazy when I was 10 years ago, where every 5 minutes. So I have definitely have sexual relationship with myself and with my partner. That's very great. I'm a huge believer of sex. I think the reason I am this happy guy is because I did sexually connect with the body and the genitals that I wasn't supposed to. But
Yeah.
I said, what? I'm going to connect to these. This thing feels awesome. And why should I disconnect? Because I'm not a normal sort of male looking body. But I'll be honest, I've never had problems with people really wanting or having sex with me. And I think that comes down to me always disclosing and always being very honest about what's happening with me, and that you won't see a penis when my pants come down.
Yeah. Do you feel that your sex life has the focus is more on pleasure and the all over sensation as opposed to orgasm?
Yeah, totally. It's not even about, it's never, you know, I always know that orgasm is the end of the sex. So I've always been this guy that says, well, wait a minute, we don't have to orgasm because when you orgasm, it's over. So why don't we like not orgasm? How about that? And always when I introduce that to my partners, they're like, thanks, especially because most of my partners have always been females, my intimacy space, not just sex space. And they've always been like, wow, no one's ever said that to me. And it takes this pressure, right? This pressure to orgasm that we have. That's so great. I said, if you're going to orgasm, you're going to orgasm. It's going to happen. And if you're not, who cares? It's not. Well, maybe next time. And I do think that's a big part of enjoying sex is not, there's no ultimate goal here for me and for you. It's let's make it fun and do fun things. And the feeling of sex is so amazing. And getting to that orgasmic space to me is always, I love that feeling. And I also like edging.
Yeah,
Edging is a really, I love it.
TRANPA edge.
No kidding. I love it.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people know about edging. When you kind of teach them about it, they're like, oh, that's so fun. It's like a roller coaster.
Yeah. I mean, it's, yeah. Or, but edging can be like a little bit, you know, it is a skill. It's a skill that we don't teach the young people the skill of edging.
No, we don't. It's all about orgasm. But then I hear now that young people are not having sex as much as they used to, which is interesting to me.
They're not.
Why?
They are not. It's a fucking phone. It's this bullshit phone. So
disgusting.
They can't talk to each other.
Wow.
You know, young people can't have a conversation in person.
Wow.
They don't know how to do that. They don't know how to approach people.
Oh my God. Well, we need to bring back sex.
They're not doing it.
Shameful.
I mean, statistically, here's the good thing about it. Statistically, people who wait longer to have sex, right? So older emerging adulthood. Older. So not 16, but like
18,
closer
20,
to 20, seem to have longer and more fulfilling sex lives.
Well, that's me. So I don't know why I was just saying that, because I just started to remember I didn't really start having real sex until like 2021. You know, I did mess around with my best friend in high school because, you know, I was dealing with a lot of that and back in the 70s and trying, you know, thinking I was gay or whatever. And so it was hard. You didn't really talk about that. And I was I was an athlete, so you definitely don't talk about being a lesbian. But
Yeah.
I remember I didn't really have sex until I was like 20 or 21. And I think maybe that's why I'm so okay.
Cruise it. It
Wow,
proves
that's
it, right?
interesting.
So,
Yeah.
so when I do talk to young people and they have
Yeah.
these concerns, I let them know that, you know, they're setting themselves up based on the numbers, right? They may
Right,
be setting
right,
themselves up to have an
right.
awesome sex life, right?
That's right.
A
That's right.
really like powerful sex life. I was just talking to a young person who is very concerned about sustaining erections, have no problem masturbating, but
Mm,
when it came to being with their partner,
mm,
who could get pregnant,
uh-huh.
they would lose their erection. And I'd
Interesting.
say, pull penetration out of the equation.
Right.
Like, do oral, like figure it out other ways. Like, have fun exploring each other's bodies.
That's right.
Because if you don't have that sense of trust and comfort, like what are we doing here? What are we doing? There's nothing worse than having sex and then feeling like, oh fuck, what did I do?
That's
What did
right.
I do? That just erased all that pleasure, all that goodness is just like in the toilet.
That's
You had mentioned about the uterus and the cervix fusing together.
Gosh, maybe I was like 15 or so years on the testosterone. And then these weird cramping things started happening right after orgasming. And they were so insane. They were like, ah, and I would have to lay down for like an hour and like try to just let them So I started going to the gynecologist who they would not see me. They were completely freaked out. It was insane what I had to deal with. And that's why I want the younger generation to know I have such a different world today. Like I had to be humiliated constantly, like just it was insane. So finally, I found a gynecologist that would look at it, and then they only did a pap smear, which they should have been doing ultrasounds, because pap smear only it doesn't go into the uterus, it only
Yeah,
cervix
yeah,
area. So
yeah.
long story short, one day I'm working out, and I lived in Mexico for 10 years. And I remember I was working out and I wasn't feeling good. And then like literally I fell to the ground. My partner at the time, I had like 108-degree temperature, rushed me to the emergency. They were like, ah. And then I remember I'm like, I have a vagina. I was like delirious. And they were like, what? They thought I was totally delirious. And so anyway, when they figured out that I was a trans man, these people didn't know what to do with a person like me. They'd never seen anything like it. So when they did the ultrasound, everything was twisted. They were like, what is this? We've never seen anything like this. So I had to be 3 months on antibiotics before they could totally go in and give me a full-blown, I had a vaginal hysterectomy. And what happened was my uterus and my cervix fused, so it's not a self-cleaning oven anymore. So the uterus is shut off, and whatever's going on in there is just turning into a gigantic petri dish. And it popped. It actually popped, and I became septic. So I was septic, and they said if you didn't come in 5 minutes more, you probably would be totally gone. And there's trans men out there who make videos about me saying I'm lying about it. And I'm just like, you people are so crazy. Why would you ever think I would lie about something so like I'm trying to help you all? So fast forward today, I clearly survived, but fast forward today, there are young trans guys who write me all the time and say, TRANPA, I have these cramps. I'm like, that's atrophy. I know exactly how to diagnose it. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to tell your gynecologist. And I made a pamphlet on a website called ftmhealth.com. And you can download that pamphlet and take it to your gynecologist. And they can say, I'm a trans man, and these are the things you probably should be, which is I encourage a ultrasound. So we can see.
And
atrophy.
do you think that vaginal estrogen would have been helpful?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was the thing that they told
Yeah.
me. Like, if you would have been doing estrogen 100%, because that's the whole thing with atrophy is no estrogen,
Yeah.
right? When you
Yeah.
put testosterone in a female bodied person, again, biology, then you're removing the estrogen that is so important for the reproductive system. And that's 100% why it happened. They did not, because I'm a guinea pig. They did not even know when they put the testosterone that the estrogen was going to lower. And, they should have told me to get a hysterectomy a long time ago.
Which is the thing too, that we don't think about. We all human beings share the same hormones.
That's
we
right.
all have the same hormones.
That's
period.
Right.
End of story.
Period.
It's just a different. So I don't want to take up too. Yeah, it's just a different. This is so great, and I'm going to get that pamphlet. The other thing I want to talk about that you alluded to during that conversation with Blossom was you kind of slipped out there, not slipped, no, it wasn't, it was a thoughtful thing, but you talked about the changes in your thinking, in your mind.
That's right. 100%. I feel much more for myself. I feel much more grounded. I feel, and I'm not saying women are emotional, hysterical. That's not what I'm saying. For me, I was all over the place when I didn't have testosterone in my body. The minute I got the testosterone, it was like a calming. I was crazy before. I was out of control, hateful, like just maniac, couldn't control myself. And then the minute the testosterone, it was like, whew, it was the opposite of what people think testosterone does. You know, it really calmed me. And so I felt like I do think in a much, I don't want to say rational. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just a different thought way. I don't come to it so stuck in my emotions anymore. I do know how to compartmentalize, and I don't know if it's the testosterone. I don't know if it's just that I'm physically seeing the man I wanted to see. So it makes me feel better. But I'm pretty sure the testosterone on some level has changed my thought processes just because I feel that way. I'm not really sure what it means. I just know from my own 30-year plus lived experience that I have become much calmer. I've become much more easy to sort of not get riled up. You saw in the date with Blossom, I'm able to sit and listen, where before I would have been pissed and I got up and like, you know, but now
Well,
I'm
you
able
were
to.
pissed. You were pissed.
I was pissed. Oh, but back in the day, I would have punched her in the face. Today, I've learned to sort of, okay, sit with it and let that person dig.
Like with cis men who take testosterone, because it can convert to estradiol.
That's right.
Sometimes I will see the opposite with them, where all of a sudden they are getting gynecomastia, so they're getting more chest, and they're really weepy and emotional, and then we have to do something about that. So it's again a very delicate balance. I'm going to let you go. I do have one thing, very important question.
Okay.
So like, what's your favorite, like, what's the thing that you love about house music right now?
I'm old school. I'm not sure that I like the newer house. I like old G
Chicago
house, Chicago. Are you kidding me? That's where it originated from. Chicago house is the best. No, that's where I come from that space. Remember how old I am? And I used to hang out in New York City at all the old school clubs and garage and, you know, all of those spaces. And that's where I got connected to that music before my transition. And you know, I house music is it's the thing. It gives me chills, and it
me too. I love to listen to what you play. So you're gonna come to, so not only will we do this again, a part 2, but when you come to New York, we're gonna go dancing. I've invited myself. Okay?
Oh no, we're going. I have a buddy. I have an apartment who gives me his apartment there, and I'm totally set up. So I'm looking to get my dates for New York. Is that where you are? You live in New York?
I'm in the Bronx.
Oh, right on. Excellent. No, we're going to totally hang out 100%. I would love to take you dancing.
Yes, I cannot wait, because I love house music as a Chicago girl.
Oh my God, because it's music to me that just resonates in my body. You know, I remember back in the day, we would dance for 2 days straight. We never left the club. We were just so, oh my God, it was the dancing days. And I think people don't. So when I introduce people to the house music that don't even know it, and they're like, what kind of music? I love that. And I'm like, people don't even know about OG house. It's so great.
Yes. I mean, they don't even know about, you know, the thing I like, the thing that drives me nuts a little bit about the young people, and I love this generation for a lot of reasons, these young people. I really do. Right. I really do. But it's like, as if they don't know, like, do they not know who Sylvester was?
No, they don't, which is so sad. Oh my God. I'm like, right.
Like, even Grace Jones, right?
Even Grace Jones. No, like, they don't.
This is not, they did not invent the fucking wheel.
They think they did, though. You know, they think they invented trans. They think they invented everything. It's, you know, but again, I got to always remember when I was 20, I was a little dick. And so it's just part of being 20. You think you know everything.
Which is awesome, right?
Yeah, that's fine. Right on.
Thank you.
Good for the kids. Thank you, friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just let me know when you want to put it up. And if you need me to help with anything, just let me know.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a beautiful day.
If you want to get in touch with Buck, you can find him on Instagram at BuckAngel. You can also go to his website. The links are in the bio, as well as the trans care guide that you can take to your provider. It's actually a great guide for anyone with a vagina. If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode, and for that, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and you'll share it with friends, people who might be interested. It's also very helpful if you subscribe on your podcast listening app and review us on Apple Podcast and Spotify. The more reviews we get, the more people will be drawn to listen. You can find me on Instagram at ageless.co. And I love to share ideas and hear about your lustful aging. And if you want to work with me, there are a few ways to do that. Ageless Labs will restart in April 2023. This is an 8-week program that allows you to create a personalized blueprint for your aging and menopausal journey. At the end of April, there will be a 3-day live in-person New York City retreat. This is where the mistresses of the menopausal mind will be dialing things up a little bit. Well, a lot of it. And it's co-facilitated with another NP, Masha, who happens to be an expert in shibari, which is rope work. So we're kind of taking the kink to aging. And finally, I do one-on-one work with folks where you learn about menopause and what might work best for your body, mind, spirit, and life in general. Check the show notes for links and more information. And again, thank you. Much love and lust. Until next time.